The silence on the feed was heavy. Static hissed in my earbud, a rhythmic, dead sound. Then it broke. The slap wasn't loud, but it was wet, distinct. The sound of meat hitting meat. Then came the whimper. It wasn't a cry for help. It was the soft, broken noise of a dog that knows it's been kicked and expects to be kicked again. My stomach turned over, ice cold. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached, the leather creaking under the strain. I was sitting in the parking lot, 3 stories down from her window, staring at the yellow square of light where my mother lay helpless. They thought the walls protected them. They thought the night shift was their kingdom. They didn't know I was listening. They didn't know about the plastic clock on the nightstand. And they sure as hell didn't know that tonight, the Noir patriarch wasn't just a sun. He was a storm, making landfall. This story gets darker than you can imagine. Before I show you the evidence, make sure you are subscribed to Family True Revenge. You need to see how justice is served. It started with a feeling in my gut, heavy and dull. You ignore it because you have to. You want to believe the glossy brochure with the stock photos of laughing seniors, golden years, dignity. The sales director, a woman with too much perfume, sold me a fantasy. I put Mom in the pines because I couldn't lift her anymore, because I was drowning in her care. I paid $3,000 a month for that garden view, signing the checks with a hand that shook from guilt. For 6 months, I bought the lie. Mom was losing her words, the Alzheimer's stealing her memories like a thief in the night. But she still lit up when I walked in. She still smelled like the lavender soap she'd used for 40 years. Then, the light in her eyes went out. She fell, the administrator said. He was slick, wearing a suit that cost more than my car. He talked about paper skin and mobility issues. I nodded, desperate to believe him. I didn't want to admit that the purple bruise on her forearm looked exactly like the shape of a thumb. I didn't want to admit I'd fed my mother to wolves. I started visiting at odd hours, 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, 9 p.m. on a Thursday, trying to catch a slip-up. The place always smelled the same, an industrial cocktail of bleach, floor wax, and the underlying sweet rot of urine masked by cheap floral spray. It's a smell that sticks to the back of your throat. Mom changed. The smile was gone. When I reached for her hand to hold it, she flinched. A sharp, violent jerk, pulling her arm into her chest. Her eyes went wide, darting to the door. That wasn't dementia. That was terror. I cornered the floor nurse, Brenda, who was aggressively chewing gum. "Why is she jumpy?" "Sundowning," Brenda said, scrolling on her phone. "They get crazy when the sun goes down, confused. It's normal." Sundowning. It sounded so clinical. A medical excuse for terror. But Mom flinched at noon. The sun was blazing. The excuse felt thin, like cheap paint over black mold. I looked at Mom, picking at a loose thread on her blanket until her cuticle bled. She wasn't confused. She was scared to death. I'm a numbers man. I find comfort in the black and white of a spreadsheet. It's how I keep control in a chaotic world. I sat at my kitchen table, the only light coming from the stove hood, scrutinizing the monthly invoice. Line item 404, physical therapy, ambulation training, 4 hours, $600. Line item 408, assisted feeding, 14 meals, $250. I stared at the paper until the numbers blurred. Ambulation training. Walking. I had been there 4 times last week. Mom was strapped into her wheelchair every single time. I asked the weekend aide, a kid with headphones around his neck. "Nah," he'd said, "she's a 2-person lift. We don't walk her." So who was walking her? Or were they just walking away with my money? Phantom billing, charging for ghosts. It wasn't just the theft, it was the arrogance. If they lied about the walking, what else were they lying about? If they billed for feeding her, did they actually hold the spoon? Or did they leave the tray until the soup went cold? The paper felt heavy in my hand. It was the first thread of the sweater I was about to unravel. I became a ghost in the hallways. I stopped talking and started listening, really listening. The staff had a language, a secret code they threw around the linen carts like bitter candy. I heard two aides laughing near the nurses' station. "Room 302 is a total princess today," one said, rolling her eyes. "Tell me about it. Room 304 is a train wreck, code brown twice already." Princess? Train wreck? Code brown? They weren't talking about cargo. They were talking about human beings, mothers, war heroes, teachers. Reduced to princess because she wanted a pillow fluffed. Reduced to train wreck because her body was failing her. Then I heard the phrase that made my blood run cold. Did 305 take the celestial discharge yet? Not yet, but he's circling the drain. Celestial discharge? Death. They had a slang term for dying, like it was a shift change, a joke. I looked at Mom's door. Was she a princess? A train wreck? Or just a paycheck waiting to expire? The cynicism hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I knew then. I was alone. I demanded a meeting with Dr. Miller. He breezed in once a week, smelling of expensive cologne and impatience. He didn't look at patients. He looked at charts. "Her weight is dropping," I said, my voice tight. 10 pounds in a month. She's wasting away. He flipped a page, bored. "It's the progression of the disease. They forget how to eat. It happens." "She eats when I feed her," I countered. "She eats the peppermint patties. She eats the soup I bring." "You're a familiar face," he said, already closing the folder. "She responds to you, but we can't force-feed her. That's abuse." He said the word abuse like it was a shield. He turned it around on me. If they fed her, it was force. If they starved her, it was nature. A perfect bureaucratic trap. "And the bruises?" I asked, pointing to the photo on my phone. "Thin skin," he said, checking his watch. "Senile purpura. Look it up." I didn't need to look it up. I knew the difference between a bump and a squeeze. Dr. Miller wasn't a healer. He was a rubber stamp. He was part of the blue wall. I sat in my car that night, the engine cold, watching the building. Dozens of yellow squares of light stacked like cages. How many of them held a secret? I couldn't be there 24/7. I had a job. I had a life, or I used to. Now my life was just worry, a gnawing rat in my chest. I needed eyes. I needed ears. I remembered a news story from Ohio. A guy put a camera in his mom's room, caught them throwing her like a sack of laundry. I had to know, even if the truth destroyed me, even if it broke my heart to see it. I had to know what happened when the sun went down and the nice visitors left. I pulled out my phone, the screen glowing in the dark car. I typed, "Hidden camera spy clock." The decision was made. The trap was set. Now, I just had to bait it. I'm not a lawyer, but I know the law is a minefield designed to protect the wrong people. I spent the night reading until my eyes burned. Wiretapping, invasion of privacy. In my state, we have one-party consent. One person in the conversation has to agree to the recording. But Mom couldn't agree. She couldn't remember her own name, let alone sign a legal waiver. And if I wasn't in the room, I wasn't a party. That meant recording audio could be a felony, a crime. I could go to jail for catching them beating her. I laughed, a dry, bitter sound in the empty kitchen. The law protects the abuser's privacy while they assault an old lady. But then I found Esther's law. Ohio passed it. It said families had a moral right. I found a loophole, or maybe just a justification. If I put a sign up, "This room is monitored," they would see it. They would fake their behavior. I didn't want theater. I wanted truth. I decided to take the risk. If the audio was illegal, I'd fight that battle in handcuffs. I'd rather be a felon than a son who did nothing. The package arrived in a plain brown box. Inside was a generic digital clock radio. Black plastic, red LED numbers. It looked like something you'd buy at a drugstore for $10. But the lens was there, hidden behind the smoked plastic face. A tiny, unblinking pinhole. It had a battery backup, but it needed to be plugged in for the long haul. It took SD cards, 128 gigabytes, enough for a week of evidence. But this one was special. It had Wi-Fi. It connected to an app. I could watch live. I could listen live. I set it up on my kitchen counter. I walked past it, testing it. My phone pinged. Motion detected. I opened the app. There I was, grainy but clear. I could hear the hum of my refrigerator. The microphone was sensitive. Good. I taped over the little LED light on the back with black electrical tape. No red glows in the dark. Spycraft 101. Getting it in was the easy part. I walked in on a Sunday afternoon, the lobby chaotic with families. Kids running, a TV blaring. I carried a bag of laundry in the box. "New clock for Mom," I told the receptionist. "Her old one died." She didn't even look up from her magazine. "That's nice." I walked past the nurse's station. Brenda was there, drinking a diet soda, ignoring the call lights board. "Afternoon, Brenda." "Hey." I went into room 312. Mom was in her chair, staring at the window, lost in a world I couldn't reach. "Hi, Ma." She looked at me, eyes vague. "Is it time for the bus?" "Not yet, Ma. Soon." I unplugged her old lamp, plugged in the clock, set the time, 2:14 p.m. I angled it just slightly, pointed right at the bed and the chair. It looked innocent. It looked cheap. It looked perfect. I connected it to the facility's guest Wi-Fi. The signal was strong, connected. The blue light on the back blinked once, then vanished under the tape. The eye was open. I left the room, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I'll be right back, Ma. Getting coffee." I walked down the hall to the vending machines, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I bought a black coffee I didn't want, just to have something to hold. I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking. I opened the app. Spinning circle. Connecting. The image popped up. Room 312. I saw Mom. I saw the empty chair where I had just been sitting. I saw a nurse walk in. It was the young one, Sarah. I turned up the volume. "You okay, Mary? Your son leave?" I heard it, clear as a bell. "Bus," Mom muttered. "Yeah, the bus is coming," Sarah said softly. She patted Mom's shoulder. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Sarah was kind. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was just paranoid, driven mad by guilt. I watched Sarah straighten the blanket. She left. It worked. I had eyes. But seeing Sarah be nice didn't explain the bruises. Someone else wasn't nice. And now I had to wait for the monsters. The first 3 days were agonizing. Surveillance is 99% boredom and 1% terror. I watched Mom sleep, her chest rising and falling in the green glow of night vision. I watched her stare at the wall. I watched her eat lunch, spilling soup on her bib. I watched the night shift come in. They were louder, rougher. They flipped the lights on without warning. "Wake up, Mary, vitals." Impersonal maybe, but not abusive. Just tired people doing a hard job. I started to doubt myself. Maybe the bruises were accidents. Maybe the code was just venting steam. Maybe I was the bad guy, spying on these people. I watched hours of static. I barely slept. My phone was always on the nightstand, glowing like an ember. Every motion alert made me jump. Ping, a nurse checking the IV. Ping, the cleaning crew mopping. Ping, Mom turning over. I was becoming a ghost in my own life, haunted by a 4-inch screen. I haven't mentioned the roommate, Mrs. Gable, bed B. She was mostly comatose, a stroke victim, curled in a permanent fetal position. She never spoke. Technically, I was violating her privacy too. Her son lived in Arizona, came once a year for an hour. I didn't ask him. I didn't ask Mrs. Gable. I figured if they were hurting Mom, they were hurting her too. I was doing this for both of them. That's the lie I told myself to sleep at night. The camera captured the edge of her bed. I saw them change her. They were fast, efficient, mechanical, like pit crew changing a tire. No words, no "Hello, Mrs. Gable." Just flip, wipe, pull, flip. It was cold. It was industrial. But was it criminal? Not yet. Wednesday night, a new nurse came on shift. A big guy, broad shoulders, name tag reading Greg. I watched on the feed. Greg walked in, whistling a tune I didn't recognize. "Hey there, Mary, how we doing?" He sounded cheerful, too cheerful. The kind of cheer that masks something else. He checked her chart. He looked at the nightstand. He looked right at the clock. My heart stopped. The blood drained from my face. He picked it up. I froze. I was sitting in my living room, 10 miles away, screaming inside my head, "Put it down, don't look at the back." He turned it over in his hands, checked the time. "Nice clock," he said to the empty room. "Big numbers, good for her eyes." He put it down. He didn't see the lens. He didn't see the tape. He walked out. I slumped back in my chair, drenched in sweat. I was safe, for now. But Greg's cheerfulness, it felt fake. It felt like the smile of a predator assessing the herd. Thursday, the Wi-Fi went down. I opened the app. Connection failed. I tried again. Offline. Panic. Blind, irrational panic. Was it just the internet? Or did they find it? Did they smash it? I couldn't go there. It was 11 p.m. If I showed up now, I'd blow my cover. I had to trust the SD card. The camera was set to record locally if the Wi-Fi cut out. I had to hope it was still running. For 6 hours, I was blind. I imagined everything. I imagined them finding it. I imagined them punishing her for it. I paced my kitchen floor until 4 a.m. The silence of the house was louder than the noise of the day. At 5 a.m., the feed came back. Mom was asleep. The clock was still there. Just a router glitch. But those 6 hours took a year off my life. Friday night, the weekend crew. Everyone knows the weekend crew is the B team. The administrators go home to their families. The supervisors are on call. The mice play while the cats are away. I knew if something was going to happen, it would be tonight. I ordered a pizza I couldn't eat. I sat in the dark, the grease congealing on the cardboard. Phone charged, iPad set up for a bigger screen. I was the noir patriarch, the sentinel. 9 p.m., lights out. 10 p.m., quiet. 11:30 p.m., 2 figures entered the room. I didn't recognize them. One female, heavy-set, one male, skinny. They weren't wearing name tags, and they weren't whispering. The audio crackled, sharp and harsh. "She's a heavy one," the woman said. Her voice was raspy, a smoker's rasp. "Just grab her legs," the man said. They approached Mom's bed. Mom was asleep, fragile under the sheet. The woman shook her shoulder, hard, violent. "Mary, wake up! We gotta change you!" Mom groaned, confused. "No, sleep." "You wet the bed, Mary. You stink. Get up." The woman yanked the blanket off. The cold air hit Mom. She curled into a ball, trying to protect herself. "Don't curl up, you old bat. Straighten out." The man laughed, a cruel, low sound. "She's fighting you." "She always fights. Give me the happy juice." Happy juice? I watched the man pull a syringe from his pocket. Wait, that wasn't in the chart. No injections at night. "Hold her down," he said. The woman grabbed Mom's wrists, pinned them to the mattress with her body weight. Mom started to cry. "Help! Help me!" "Shut up, Mary. You want to sleep? We'll help you sleep." He jammed the needle into her thigh, through the nightgown. Mom screamed, a thin, weak scream that tore my soul in half. "There," the man said. "That'll shut her up till morning." They didn't change her. They didn't clean her. They drugged her to silence her. And then, the woman slapped her. Not hard enough to bruise instantly, but disrespectful. A backhand to the cheek. "Nighty-night, princess." I sat there, frozen. My brain refused to process what my eyes saw. The video was bad, grainy shadows and green tints, but the audio, the slap, the thwack of flesh on flesh, the happy juice, the old bat. It was brutal. It was raw, distilled hate. They hated her vulnerability. They hated their job. And they were taking it out on the only person who couldn't fight back. I replayed it. I had to be sure. Play. "Shut up, Mary." Jab. Scream. Slap. I threw up, right there on the floor. Acid and bile. The rage was a physical thing. It burned my throat like fire. I wanted to drive down there. I wanted to kick the door down. I wanted to break them with my bare hands. But I couldn't. Not yet. If I went down there now, I'd go to jail for assault, and they might get away with it. "He's crazy," they'd say. "He attacked us." I needed the police. I needed the law. I needed to be the ice, not the fire. I hit record on the app, saving the clip to my phone's local storage. I emailed it to myself. I uploaded it to the cloud. Triplicates. I wasn't losing this. I looked at the timestamp. Friday, 11:42 p.m. I called the non-emergency line? No, this was a crime in progress. 911, what is your emergency? I want to report an assault in progress, elder abuse, at the Pines. Is the victim in immediate danger? They just drugged her. They hit her. I have it on video. Sir, are you at the location? I'm on my way. Send a squad car. Send 2. I hung up. I grabbed my keys. I grabbed the iPad. I stepped out into the night. And I was going to war. The drive took 20 minutes. I made it in 10. I ran every red light. I didn't care. My mind was looping the video. Slap. Princess. Slap. I thought about the bruises I had questioned, the accidental falls. It was them. It was always them. The senile purpura, the sundowning. All lies. All cover. They were torturing her, slowly, systematically, and charging me $3,000 a month for the privilege. The steering wheel felt like it would snap in my hands. I pulled into the lot, tires screeching. The police lights were already flashing, blue and red painting the brick building in chaotic strokes. Good. I met the officers at the automatic doors, 2 young cops, looking bored and confused. You the caller? Yeah, room 312, my mother. "Sir, you can't go up there. We need to assess." I shoved the iPad in his face. "Watch this. Don't assess. Watch." I played the clip. The cop watched. He heard the slap. He heard the scream. His face hardened. The boredom vanished, replaced by disgust. "Jesus," he muttered. "They're still in there," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "Or on the floor. Weekend shift." "Stay here, sir," the cop said. He tapped his radio. "Dispatch, we have a confirmed assault. Send a supervisor. We're entering the building." They went in. I followed. "Sir, stay back." "I'm coming," I said. "Try and stop me." They didn't try hard. They knew a son on a mission when they saw one. We went to the 3rd floor. The elevator smelled of old coffee and bleach. The hallway was quiet. The cops moved fast. We found them at the nurse's station, eating pizza, laughing. The skinny man and the raspy-voiced woman. They looked up, mid-chew, surprised. "Can we help you, officers?" the man asked. He wiped tomato sauce from his lip. "Stand up," the cop said. "Hands behind your back." "What? Why?" "For assaulting Mary in 312. The woman turned pale. "We didn't touch her." "I have it on video," I said. I stepped out from behind the cop. They looked at me. They recognized me. The nice son, the guy who brought peppermint patties. "You put a camera in there?" the woman hissed, venom in her voice. "That's illegal. That's wiretapping." "Tell it to the judge," I said, staring into her eyes. "You're done." The cuffs clicked. It was the sweetest sound I ever heard. They took them away in the back of the cruiser. I went to Mom's room. She was out cold. The sedative. I checked her cheek, a red mark, blooming like a dark flower. I held her hand. It was cold. I packed her bag right then and there. "We're leaving, Ma." The administrator showed up an hour later, hair messy, suit rumpled, smelling asleep. "Sir, you can't just remove a resident against medical advice." I looked at him. I channeled every ounce of the Nor patriarch. "You're lucky I'm not removing your teeth," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "You're going to hear from my lawyer. You're going to hear from the state. And you're going to hear from the news." He saw the look in my eye. He backed down, shrinking into his rumpled suit. I didn't know," he stammered. "It was your job to know," I said. The next months were a blur of depositions and headlines. The video went viral. The local news played it on loop. Blurry footage, clear audio. The public was outraged. "The recording is brutal," the Chiron read. The facility tried to suppress the evidence. Their high-priced lawyers argued two-party consent. They argued expectation of privacy. My lawyer, a shark named Gold, laughed at him in court. "There is no expectation of privacy when you are committing a felony," he argued. The judge agreed. The tape was admissible. The happy juice turned out to be unauthorized Haldol, chemical restraints. The billing fraud came out too, the phantom ambulation. The dominoes fell, one by one. The man and woman took plea deals, 5 years each. Elder abuse, assault. It wasn't enough. It never is. But it was prison. The facility settled, $2 million. Wrongful injury, negligence. I didn't care about the money. I put it in a trust for Mom's new care, private home care, in my house. No more facilities, no more codes. Mom is safe now. She sits in my garden, watching the birds. She doesn't flinch when I touch her hand anymore. That's the real victory. I kept a clock. It sits on my desk, unplugged. Its black eyes staring at nothing. A reminder. The world is dark. People are broken. They will hurt the weak if they think no one is watching. They rely on the silence. They rely on the closed door. But we have tools now. We have eyes. I was just a son. Now, I'm a witness. If you have a loved one in a home, don't trust the brochure. Don't trust the smile. Trust your gut. And if you have to, put a mic in the room. Because the recording might be brutal, but the silence is worse. This is the Nor Patriarch, signing off. Watch your back. Watch your family. And never let the bad guys sleep soundly.